Let's just talk about this story. It's pretty disturbing. The chairwoman of the FEC, that's the Federal Election Commission, this is the agency that's charged with regulating election campaign laws, like basically money. You're not allowed to spend money this way. You're not allowed to raise money that way. Said in an interview, the likelihood of the laws being enforced is slim. I never want to give up, but I'm not under any illusions. People think the FEC is dysfunctional. It's worse than dysfunctional. Why is it worse than dysfunctional? I think it's a combination of both our election laws being in shambles and the commission itself being completely stalemated. The committee is made up of 6 commissioners, 3 of whom are Republicans, 3 of whom are Democrats. This is a committee that was formed 40 some odd years ago in the wake of Watergate. Apparently, the commissioners, some of them, are barely on speaking terms. They don't negotiate with each other, and there's no consensus on which rules to enforce. And on top of that, they have a minuscule budget. You've had FEC complaints with candidates like Jeb Bush and Martin O'Malley, who are skirting campaign finance laws by not declaring. So they're going around and raising money for their super PACs, which is ultimately going to be used to be spent on their campaigns, but they're not declaring. So you've got a lot of dark money, a lot of unaccountable money being raised. She said that when she became chairman in December, this would be hilarious at any other time. She was determined to, quote, bridge the partisan gap and see the FEC confronted such problems. After 5 months, she said she had essentially abandoned efforts to work out agreements on what she saw as much needed enforcement measures. Now she's basically just going to take her case to the public for what that's worth. The few rules that are left, people feel free to ignore, said Ellen Weintraub, a Democratic commissioner. But here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. Republican members of the commission see no such crisis. They say they are comfortable with how things are working under the structure that gives each party 3 votes. No action at all, they say, is better than overly aggressive steps that could chill political speech.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world.
You know, I don't even think that's fair because they're not deluded. They know exactly what they're talking about. Do you understand the threat to democracy if the Koch brothers can't spend $900 million on this election? Do you understand the threat to democracy that forcing Sheldon Adelson to spend just thousands on this election instead of hundreds of thousands of millions in this election? Do you understand the threat to democracy that is represented by the idea that Pete Peterson or Ken Langone or that car dealer in Florida or Foster Freeze or whoever the other billionaires, if they can't spend that money, do you understand the chill that will take place on our democracy? Experts predict that the 2016 race could produce a record fundraising haul as much as $10 billion. Apparently, there's been all sorts of rancor on that committee. As late as 2006, the committee was able to impose major fines against high-profile groups, liberal and conservative, for breaking campaign finance laws 2 years early by misusing their tax-exempt status for political fundraising. But Citizens United and this committee in disarray, I don't know, disarray is the right word, just completely paralyzed. Forget about it. So it was a nice experiment while it lasted, but let's just roll this thing up. I honestly, like, we're getting to the point where maybe we can get to 10 billion, 300 million. What we would all get, what is it, $30 or $300? But if you just narrow it down to voters, then we're starting to get in like some real cash. But the problem is if you pay everybody the same amount of money, right? Then it's just like it turns out the election turns out to be a draw.
Well, you'd have to turn it into a market.
Right.
And just as we're saying this, I'm already seeing people in their parents' basements with bad phone connections.
This is going to be the app.
Nodding their heads vigorously, saying, exactly.
Turn this into a market.
Turn this into a market.
I hope what they're doing is developing an app.
Outcomes.
It's going to do an app to actually put your vote up for bid. K9 Cats, I live
Sam,
a half a...
I'd like to call with a libertarian perspective about getting paid to vote, getting bribed to vote for certain candidates.